Good afternoon, all. Hope everyone is well and keeping safe. Welcome everyone to our latest Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce webinar. That's me, your host, Sonny Rana, account manager at the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today I am joined by Will Littlewood, head of production at Oxfordshire-based video production company Raw Pictures, who will hopefully be discussing just some of the ways that businesses can innovate their marketing during these interesting times of crisis. I think everyone can sort of agree. Over to you, Will.
Yeah, so hi everyone. You're actually in luck today because you've got two of us from Raw Pictures. I'm joined by Will Dawson, who's the creative director here as well, who's going to be giving some insight later on into some of the more creative ways to adapt content and self-shoot. Just to make a point on that, we do live in the same house, so we are allowed to be next to each other. We're not breaking any lockdown rules at the moment. But thank you all very much for joining. So as Sonny's mentioned, we're a video production company based in Oxford. We primarily work with businesses and organisations creating video content to aid with their marketing campaigns or events that go on throughout the year. So what we're going to be looking at today is going to be a few different topics across marketing, video content, and mindset at times like this, hopefully as a way of giving you advice and insight into how to innovate certain parts of your business at times of crisis like this. It's all going to be quite top level because appreciate there is probably quite a variety of industries of people who've joined us. So we're not going to make it specific for everybody, but it will all be useful advice across any industry. The order that we're going to be running it is initially looking at different ways that you can use video at the moment or in future and switching up your marketing strategy. It's then going to be looking into the mindset of business owners at the moment and different things that you can do, different ideas you can try and implement into the business to help you keep moving forward, keep achieving and keep selling at times like this. Will Dawson is then going to be looking at creativity within marketing content and within video and different ways to make your brand relatable to customers and clients. Then going to be looking at some advice on self-shooting video. So anybody who's looking at creating their own content at home across a variety of different aspects and how they can do that to the best of their ability. And then a quick look at the end, like we are currently doing now, on live streaming and how you're able to use that and switch up events that may have been going on previously and use them as live streamed events now. So we're going to start with the video content side of things. One thing obviously that most of you will be aware of is that it's very up and down for businesses at the moment in terms of which of their customers and clients might be still spending, which are holding off the future, and similarly with competitors who are still spending and who have stalled or gone out of business at the moment. One thing that we've found is when it comes to video content at the moment, obviously now is a fantastic time to be creating content, taking time to think about what you're making for the business, think about what you're making for clients, for customers, and take the time now when you may not be as busy as you would be normally to start building up a really, really fantastic bank of content, which will allow you to, when everything comes back to normal, launch straight into a marketing campaign where you will have a lot of brilliant content primed and ready for customers and clients who are ready to buy then and who are looking at purchasing your services when lockdown or when quarantine is over. It also gives you a great opportunity, obviously, for the customers now and clients now who are still looking at buying, still looking at using your services, to create really interesting and engaging content to try and target them. And by releasing content now, obviously it gives, if you go down the video route, it gives you more time for videos to get improved watch time, to start ranking better, which obviously is an excellent part of ongoing marketing or SEO campaigns that you may be running at the moment. And if you're able to start getting in front of people now, then YouTube obviously starts ranking channels and videos better that have better engagement, better view time, better comments. So if you're able to start creating content now to reach people, in 2 or 3 months' time, when everyone comes back to normal, you'll be in a much better position. For anybody watching who is a B2C business rather than B2B, since the outbreak started, 80% of consumers have reported that they are watching more content now and consuming more content. So it's an excellent way, if you are targeted at consumers, to start creating content now to reach them and to sell to people when other people may not be. Obviously, one stat that came out this week was that 25% of businesses small businesses have stopped trading at the moment. And whilst that you may start looking at that from a negative impact of customers might have stopped trading, it also may well mean that competitors have stopped trading. So if you're able to start getting ahead of competitors now who have stopped or who aren't putting into plan these sorts of marketing strategies, it's a really, really brilliant way of getting ahead of them and being able to take advantage of a slight slowdown to make sure that you're in a better position when everything comes back together, hopefully in the coming months. The next step of what we're going to be looking at is a mindset shift, some of which I've sort of vaguely looked at in that first half, but it's very, very easy at the moment to get dragged into the doom and gloom of what's going on. So many people, as soon as lockdown was announced or as soon as the outbreak started happening, started to panic, started to take rash decisions within their business, within personal life, and obviously started to get dragged down a bit. Having spoken to quite a lot of business owners in the last few weeks, lots and lots of people have said they've completely, one thing, very, very small thing they've started doing, which helped, was they just simply stopped watching the news in the mornings, because they found that by watching the news, finding out totals from the day before, things like that, it immediately put them in a negative mood for the day, and it meant they were much less productive. So it's a very, very small step, but it's something that lots of people have found really, really important at the moment in terms of helping them keep positive about what's going on. One big shift that I found personally, and it's applicable to businesses now and outside of lockdown as well, but is timetabling your days, because lots of people recently have been saying with working from home, with interrupted schedules, they're finding it really difficult to get motivated to find schedules for what they want to do throughout the day and actually to make sure they get stuff done, and they end up working late on into 9, 10, 11 at night, even when they don't need to. So putting together a daily timetable the night before you start work is a really, really brilliant way, when everything is a bit up in the air, to keep motivation going, and also just to make sure that you keep creating and doing the work that you need to do, because otherwise you end up spending far, far too long on certain tasks that you may not have actually needed to do at that time. It helps you prioritize, it helps you realize what's important for you, what's important for the business, and it helps enable you to actually obviously ensure that you get everything done you need to within the day. One tip that I was given recently as well, which I found really useful, is obviously try and within that timetable or every single day, try and find one thing in that day, whether it's business related, whether it's personal life, one thing that you can improve. So lots of people, similar to us, hence why we're having this chat today, have been looking at their marketing. They've been looking at strategy for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and even going forward when things calm down a bit, because they've been given a very, very small amount of time now that they can start focusing on their own business. So if there's small things that you want to look at, like marketing strategy, like future cash flow, like social media, anything like that, that you can spend half an hour, 20 minutes on each day. And also, like I say, outside of the business as well, lots of people that I've spoken to, business owners and employees alike, have been using this time to very, very small things, repaint the house, spend a bit more time with their kids. It's quite simple, but if you can allot a bit of time each day for things like that, obviously it really, really helps with being able to maintain positivity, and it helps you just generally reshape and improve your business, not just for now, but for when things come out of this as well. One really important thing that we found as a business, and having spoken to a lot of other marketing agencies and lots of other businesses in other industries, they've said that it's really, really helped not only their business, but their customers in reshaping their messaging and the way that they have their outlook on their customers and their outlook on selling at the moment. Something that we found, obviously you may well have been told by a lot of people, now is not a good time to sell to people and to be pushy with sales strategies, things like that. Whilst technically that might be true as people are struggling, it doesn't mean there is not really, really good opportunities to be selling and for other people to actually buy your services. But it's all about how you and your customers see your services and see your messaging. If you're able to shift your tone and your messaging from selling to supporting customers or clients, it's a really, really effective way of getting through to them. And not only with pre-existing clients, it's also with prospective customers, because nobody likes picking up the phone and being sold to. It's a very, very British thing to hate being sold to, hate having anything pushed onto you, especially at a time like this. So if you're able to pick up the phone to pre-existing or prospective customers and just have a chat about how you might be able to help them, what they might be struggling with. Obviously, you hopefully will have pre-qualified them as someone who will be able to use your services, but have that chat in terms of support, in terms of help, because that's what everyone needs at the moment, especially from the small business perspective. Within Thames Valley, there are thousands of small businesses who are working together, were working together before this, and will still be working together out of this. So one thing that we found, and I know a lot of people in my network have found, picking up the phone to pre-existing customers and clients and having a chat with them about how things are going, how they're finding business, what's going on, has been a huge help and has actually led to increased business amongst some clients, because they really, really appreciate the fact that it actually felt like their supplier cared. So if you act as a supplier or an advisor to certain businesses, take the time, take 15, 20 minutes each day to make that call. One thing that you may have found if you've already started this, or one thing that you will certainly find if you are looking at starting this, is that more people are by the phone now. More people are not commuting, they're not driving to meetings, and they don't necessarily have a receptionist or a gatekeeper in front of them taking their calls. So it can be a good opportunity to speak to business owners, speak to decision makers, and have the sorts of powerful conversations that people need at the moment to help, obviously, you all grow your business, but also to potentially help your customers. And it's a really, really small shift, but it's something that I know will, for us, will pay dividends coming out of this, and has already paid dividends since this started, just by changing the tone with which we speak to customers. It is a good opportunity. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of cold calling or calling customers or prospects in general, but now is a good time to try that, as long as you are doing it in a sensible and an understanding way. It's not about taking advantage, it's not about pushing, it's about making sure that those conversations are insightful, they're useful. And I had a big chat with another group of business owners a couple of weeks ago, and we all asked, what one thing have you been doing and can you do at the moment to help customers, to provide them with a bit of ongoing support, whether they are current customers or whether they're future customers? What have you been doing? And the general consensus was advice. Advice that costs you nothing to give, or if you can give them a bit of insight, a little bit of help that might help them, obviously you know that it's going to encourage your customers to come back to you in future. If you are helping them out at a time like this, and if you are not charging them, if you're not taking advantage, the one important thing to bear in mind of that is you cannot devalue what you do. You cannot devalue the advice you give. If you are a consultancy and you charge for the time and the advice you give, do not devalue that. But it's about working out something you can do right now with your customers that will not only help them, but will obviously help boost their view of you as a supplier and as a potential consultant. The next thing we're going to be looking at now is the actual content side of things, and what you can be doing to help improve what your business is doing purely from a video content perspective, which Will Dawson is going to run you through.
Hi everyone, I'm just going to go back to the first slide that Will was talking about, just to elaborate a little bit more for those of you that maybe don't know as much about SEO, because I feel like a lot of what Will has said may have gone over people's heads if you're not so clued up on how video helps SEO. When Will's talking about ranking and more views and doing better on YouTube and comments and all that kind of stuff, Those of you that are using marketing to boost your using SEO to help boost your marketing and help improve your brand, you'll probably be aware that video is a really important tool in helping your website rank better on Google, helping to reach more people. Obviously, everyone knows that people aren't reading anymore and they're preferring to watch stuff, to find stuff out. So when Will's talking about now is a good time to release lots of videos so that in a few months' time or however long it's going to be, when we emerge from this lockdown, the reason he's saying it's good to be releasing that content now ahead of that period of time is that because over the time spent where people are going to be watching more video, which is this period now, it's obviously when it gets more views, that makes Google recognize it as a more important factor. Those of you that work in marketing, I'm sure everything I'm explaining now is very, very basic, but for those of you who don't know as much about it and were a bit of a novice in the beginning, like I was when I started doing marketing, the way video works is that the more views it garners, and because Google is a partner of YouTube, the more views a video has, the more Google recognizes it as good content and the more it boosts it higher up in the ranking. So if your website is full of lots of watched videos or is backlinked to YouTube, obviously a partner of Google, Google's more likely to promote that content. So you will rank higher by releasing videos now and giving them time to gain what we call traction and garner traction and views, which will help them rank better in a few months' time. So that's what Will was sort of talking about when he said it's better to release videos now, so in a few months' time they'll rank better. What that just basically means is release the content now, give it the opportunity to boost the SEO and boost the ranking of your website whilst more people are watching more videos right now. And in a few months' time, we'll be doing better. But my job now is just very, very briefly to sort of do the opposite of my day-to-day, which is to try and come up with professional content and teach you how it's good to make creative homemade content. And what the importance of doing that is, I'm sure it sounds very tiring. It sounds like a lot of work. And for anyone that hasn't made a video before, it probably sounds like sort of the kind of thing that if you're not a professional and you're a bit afraid to jump into. But I'm going to talk about why it's important to do it and how you can do it and what you can do to make it creative and interesting. The first place I'll start is just the fundamental of marketing, which is humanizing your brand. People love to see the people behind brands. People love to see the people behind businesses. And we forget about that when we put on our suit and we try and come across as professional as we possibly can, and we create this corporate image of our company, and we forget that people actually fundamentally at the bottom line buy from people. Obviously the first rule of trading, the first rule of marketing is that if someone likes you, they're probably going to buy from you. And that's why homemade video is great, because it gives an insight into what it's like for these people day to day, and giving people that insight is very, very interesting. It's very engaging. And it also helps people create a personal connection with you, which is obviously a really useful tool when trying to sell. So obviously, where I'm going to start with this is to talk to you about the kind of videos I'm describing here. So whether that's homemade vlogs, and a vlog is a video blog. It's just a diary of your day. It's just a little summary of what you've been doing day to day. Whether it's what I've called kitchen company updates or kitchen company tips. So if you're an accountancy firm and you want to give people advice on how best to be dealing financially with the current pandemic, you could be releasing one tip a day from your kitchen. But what we've done there by calling it a kitchen company update or a kitchen top tip, is just give it a catchy brand name, give it something fun, give people the indicator that it's a series, that it belongs to a format, and it's something that you can easily recreate. Obviously, creating video content that is easy for you to replicate and easy for you to make is the ideal scenario right now. So an important part of doing this is understanding the why, and as I said, to humanize your brand. The other thing is to show people that you're still working, you're still running. A lot of people are questioning, oh, I wonder whether raw pictures are going to be around to do an edit right now, or whether they've all been furloughed. And just by having a video presence online is showing that you are A, still working, you are B, still surviving, you're still okay, you're still healthy, you're still happy, and C, you are still available if people need you. And making this homemade content is really, really useful in doing that. And like I said, giving people an insight into what your life is like. If you imagine I imagine for a lot of you, some of the best results that have come from having Zoom calls is seeing everyone's pets. I know a lot of people have had a bring your dog to work day. I know a lot of people have had a bring your pet to Zoom meeting day, where you're just showing off the kind of pets you live with, and it's bringing people closer. It's helping to give people a personal touch to everything everyone's doing. I've included a little picture down there of that famous BBC news report where the guy was giving his talk and his kids decided to come in and ruin the interview. And it's great because it gives people an insight behind your lives, and I think it's a really, really great opportunity to make a connection with possible customers and bring them in by showing them, you know, this is what I'm like, this is who I am, and if they're interested, they'll stick around to buy from you. And that's one of the things that I wanted to go on to talk about, in that this is what we call edutainment. If you advertise yourself doing tour diaries or diary entries or kitchen top tips, little insight daily, people might just come along and watch your video simply because they're interested in seeing what your life is like. I know for a fact that if Elon Musk or Bill Gates started doing diaries from their kitchen, I'd be interested to see what their lives are like and what's going on in their lives. I think that's why we've all been enjoying a lot of these musicians and celebrities maybe doing Instagram live videos from their kitchens or little diary entries. So it's really, really great to bring people in and encourage people to watch your content by giving them a look behind the curtain, behind this, and using this tool of edutainment, where we give people the belief that they're going to be entertained by what they're going to watch. And then what they do is they stick around if you are able to bring it back to your services. So someone might come to see how their accountant, or see what their accountant's kitchen looks like, and they might stay for the top tips and the tools. So to summarize that little thing, the kind of videos you could be doing is just vlogs, diary entries, tips, tutorials, walkthroughs, all that kind of stuff for your client support, videos that will, again, that complement what Will was talking about in supporting your clients. And the reason behind doing it is to show the face behind the mask, show the person, give people a little look behind the curtain. And right now, given the amount of video people are watching, they're more likely to watch it. So find a way of making it engaging, whether it's a little diary, a little tour of your house, or a little diary entry from what it's like for you and your business running during a pandemic. And then give them the opportunity to get to know you, whether that's by showing them your dogs, your parrot, your cat. And if your kids decide to make, those of you who have kids, if they decide to make an appearance as well, again, it's another little thing that people can bond over. So just move on to the next slide, and I'll talk to you about how to make this stuff, which essentially is really really, as I was saying, the opposite of what I do day to day. But there's no point making this stuff if it doesn't look nice. And there really are very simple rules to filmmaking in every single aspect, from the Spielbergs to those of us making stuff in our kitchens at the moment. The rules are the same. Good lighting is essential. So don't ever have a window behind you unless you have a diffuser, which I'm not sure how many of you do, but you might. Yeah, I mean, those of you that have ever taken a photo before will notice if you try and take a photo standing in front of a window, you have a silhouette. So try and always make sure the window's in front of you. Try and make sure that you don't have, those of you with kitchen overhead spotlights, try and avoid overhead spotlights. This is usually the part where I'd be able to give you a visual demonstration of what I'm talking about. But given that we're on a PowerPoint, I'll do my best to describe it to you, but try and not have a light over the top of your head. It can look strange. It can make the colors look a bit weird if it's an orange light. So try and make sure you've got a nice clean light in front of you, a nice big light, ideally daylight. If not, if you have got access to lights you can use, that would be a good thing to do. But don't shine the light straight onto your face. Don't use a spotlight because it end up making you look a little bit odd, or a little bit like someone who's in the middle of a police interrogation. So the best thing to do, use natural light. Make sure it's in front of you. Make sure you haven't got too much light coming in close behind you. Another thing to do is to create depth with your shot. So that's what we spend a lot of time doing when we set up an interview shot. We'll make sure there's a nice background in the background, but we want to make sure our subject, the person in shot or yourself, you're not too close to the background so you're not lost in the background. And it creates this nice image and focus of the subject if they're set a little bit far away from the background. So if you could possibly sit in the hallway with the kitchen behind you, and a window in front of you, or if you're in the kitchen, sit at the dining room table, sit at the kitchen table with the breakfast bar or whatever it is you've got behind you, and create a little bit of depth in the shot. Obviously, if you've only got small rooms that are close to big windows, then don't worry too much about that. But it's a nice little top tip: create a little bit of depth. Separate yourself away from what's in the background, and make sure the light's in front of you always. And then getting the shot. Realistically, I have a rule with this kind of stuff. Make sure it's stationary unless you're walking. Unless you're taking the audience with you, there's no reason that you should be making them bob up and down, give people some motion sickness. Just make sure the phone or whatever camera you decide to use is stationary in front of you if you're sat down. But if you're taking them on a little diary, obviously you can do a walk around, but keep the shot steady. Check your surroundings, make sure you haven't got any embarrassing photos up behind you or anything you don't want appearing in the shot. Make sure any propaganda you might have that gives away your political allegiances might be hidden depending on what your views are. And make sure you're in focus. Make sure that when you've set up the shot, it's often good to be able to see it while you're recording so you can check that everything's in focus. And nothing comes out blurry at the end, because there's nothing more annoying than setting the camera up, watching it back and realizing the entire thing was out of focus. And obviously the other thing the final thing being sound. I realize these options are a little bit more limited. If you're using a phone, just make sure your speakers, your microphone at the bottom of the phone is clear and it's not obstructed by anything. If you do have a microphone that you can use externally for whatever camera it is you're using, or whether it's a clip-on for your phone, just make sure that you can listen to it back while you're recording. So it's good to use headphones at the same time, because you never know what kind of distortion or noises might be going on at the same time. And you don't want to record it, watch it all back and see that you've messed up the sound. And another thing to think about is what's going on in the background. So if kids are screaming, or if there's an argument going on in the background, no matter how poor your mic is, your audience is probably going to be able to pick it up. And one thing I've just written here is sometimes throwing in a little bit of royalty music during your video can turn something that is essentially really awkward to watch into something really interesting and entertaining. So use music if you've got access to royalty music. There's royalty-free music. There's loads on YouTube. Just type copyright-free music and you can download it from there. The final thing I'm just going to say on this is that if you do want to go a little bit further than just the standard camera the standard phone or home video camera setup, there is lots of stuff on Amazon right now. There are lots of little features you can get for a phone: clip-on microphones, clip-on lenses, little tripods that I've advertised here. So just have a little look on Amazon. Look at the essentials. There's lots of stuff for self-shooting. And as long as you stick to the key rules, make sure the lighting's good, make sure to use the right kind of lighting, make sure you're in focus and you're steady, and make sure no one's disturbing the noise in the background, you should be all good for self-shooting. But make sure you create that home content, create the personal connection between you and your possible customers, show people you're still trading. And as Will said earlier, make sure you're producing videos to help with your SEO, to help with your rankings. So further down the line, you'll make sure you'll be picked up by Google, and when people come to search for you, they want to see that you've still been active. And as long as you've still been active whilst you've still been at home, they shouldn't have any problem. I don't know if you want to jump onto a quick thing about live streaming, and then we'll just go to questions.
So one final point that we'll make before questions is obviously it's what we're currently doing now. It's what a lot of you guys have been doing for the last few weeks now, but it's a follow-on on live streaming. So we're currently obviously using Zoom. We know full well there are lots and lots of good platforms available at the moment which have soared in popularity due to current situation. But one thing that we have found with customers who have been speaking to us the last few weeks is there are a few things that people might not know about live streaming that can just slightly boost the quality or boost audience if that is what you're looking for. So one thing that we found is a lot of our normal work day to day is event filming, which is things like conferences. And some of our clients who were due to be hosting large 100-person conferences this year have now had to move everything online. And what we've spoken about and what we've actually been able to offer them is there is a way of making it more high quality compared to rubbish laptop webcams. One thing that's possible to be able to do, depending on what camera you have available, is that you can actually trick your laptop or your computer or Zoom into thinking that your normal high quality video camera is your webcam. And what that's enabled our clients to do is still be able to live stream the information and the speakers in the same quality that they wanted to, but with their audience all over the world now, rather than all being in one room. And they are going to be running that in summer. They've been doing it for the last couple of weeks as well. Something that you also may not know about Zoom is that you can actually stream directly from Zoom onto YouTube. So rather than doing what we're doing today, which is obviously recording the webinar to then upload onto YouTube, you can actually, if you want, stream directly. Now, the ways that this has appeal, obviously, is if you are looking at getting good viewership and good engagement and good audience size onto an event. Because the advantage to being able to use YouTube as opposed to Zoom, one, everybody knows YouTube. Lots of people don't trust Zoom still, so they're slightly more hesitant to join into Zoom calls. One of the advantages to YouTube, as we've been talking about with SEO, is that you can actually still optimize a live stream. If you wanted to live stream content onto there, you can still create a really, really nice, attractive thumbnail to bring in watchers. You can optimize all of the tags on a YouTube live stream video so that you're able to reach people who maybe would be searching for the normal keywords that you market your business with, but that you can actually market whatever live stream you're offering or whatever webinar you're offering using your main business keywords on YouTube, which obviously massively ramps up the potential for a much bigger audience if you're looking at attracting that. The other advantage of it is there is no limit on size. So obviously Zoom has audience size limits unless you want to pay the big bucks. So with YouTube, there is absolutely no limit. You can share that link with as many people as you possibly want. Again, if you are looking at creating a big event or getting big audience numbers along. The other side of it is similar to Zoom, you can make it private. You can have password protected YouTube streams. You can only send the link out to certain people if you want to avoid strangers jumping on, or if it is sensitive information, for example, you still need to host your company's AGM and you are looking at getting that information across in a private and easily managed way, which you can do on YouTube. And again, you don't need to try and persuade people to download Zoom or load it in a browser if they are not quite sure of the privacy side of it. There's a lot to look at. I realise we've rushed through quite a lot in space of about half an hour there. There's loads and loads of different options you guys can do yourself, both on creating content, on live streaming, and obviously reaching customers at a weird time like this. If it is something obviously that you think is suitable, come and have a chat to us about the sorts of content that we would recommend at the moment to elaborate on Will's point. But what we'll do now is just open it up to some questions if you guys have any that you want to ask now. And I think, Sonny, if this is a good time for you to jump back in as well.
Yeah, certainly. So thanks very much, Will and Will, much appreciated. Is there anyone out there that's got any questions that are sort of burning? If not, I've got a couple that if you guys wouldn't mind answering. We'll give it a couple of seconds just in case anyone does decide to type anything, but it doesn't look like there is anything. I have a question. You talk about sort of content and making it personable. Is there a sort of rule of thumb on what type of content can be shared on what type of platform? You talked about your sort of brand and showing the people behind the brand. I see often, I think I saw yesterday, my very first TikTok video on LinkedIn. I was sort of a bit shocked at that. Is that the sort of content that should be on that particular platform, or does it not matter?
So this is obviously like a really, really big talking point that is like quite a broad thing for me to try and summarize for you in about 30 seconds, but I'll do my best. But it completely depends on context. Ideally, I wouldn't want to see the MOD or like some like high-ranking security system on TikTok doing dance routines. But if you're a recruitment agency where you're aiming to show yourself being a fun place to work, then yeah, TikTok's great for you. Right now, the best form of video is the same form of video. The type, so whether it's short form or long form, the rule is still the same for marketing as it was pre-pandemic to now. Short form content is still the best thing to be producing. We specialize in We obviously specialize in doing 1.5 to 2 minute videos for marketing, because that's still the quickest way and the easiest way to get your message across. The platforms where they're being used the most right now is obviously social media, and more people are on social media now. So the best thing to do is to still produce short form content. And so don't spend time producing 1.5 hour behemoth, epics of your kitchen diaries, but keep the content fun, keep the content short, unless you're the kind of business that shouldn't be producing fun things. But on the whole, I think most of us could get away with producing fun content, and especially making content about dogs. Everyone loves dogs.
It's Sunny. It's a good question, because it's the same conversation we have with clients week in, week out in normal trading as well. Because every single platform has its own style of video that works well for it. But it's about, as Will says, working out what your brand is, where your customers are, and working out the best kind of content to attract them on certain platforms.
Wonderful. We've got a question here from Callum. Hi, Callum. Callum asks, hello there. Is it worth creating animation during this time, or is it better to do faster, more consistent video content?
So maybe just need Callum to elaborate a little bit on what you mean by whether it's worth doing animation or faster, more consistent content. Because obviously animation can be you mean in terms of the production side of things, because producing animation can be really quick. Our guys produce animated videos in a couple of days, or obviously the longer stuff can take 5 days a week, a month, or whatever. But if you're looking at producing fun videos for social media, there's no reason you shouldn't go high end and produce animation. But my advice would always be do it all. Do the homemade stuff. Get the animated stuff if you can afford it. If you've got the capability to invest in it, then definitely do it, because at the end of the day, people are watching video, and whether it's ready in 5 days to a week, or whether it's ready, you have a background in After Effects and access to the software. Brilliant, mate. Get on After Effects and start making it. That'd be my advice. You could probably turn around a really nice sting or a really nice piece in a couple of days, and just get it out there. I think. And there is sort of no rule on what's best for right now. What's best for right now is to be doing something, right? I think that's what we can probably universally agree with, is just we should all be producing stuff, whether that's homemade stuff, whether that's more professionally high-end animated stuff, or short form in your kitchen blogs. All that stuff's good to produce right now, because the rule right now is just to make sure you're seen as active and you're still able to bring in the kind of revenue you need to come out the other end of this stuff. So if you've got access to After Effects and you can make your own animations, I'd say jump on it, definitely do it. Sweet man, get straight on it. And then also I would say have a think about the kind of stuff you can make instantaneously. So if you could make an animated series as your long-term goal, so you say each week we're going to try and release a new animation, but every day we're also going to release a little vlog from someone in the team. So Sonia, who works in marketing, she's going to do a little piece about her kitchen and her dog today, and then also give you some top tips on marketing. And then maybe Barry in accounts is going to do a little tour of his extension that he had put in at the beginning of the year, and now he can't invite any of his friends over, but he's going to show you his cat that he's been living in the extension with. So it's like little stuff like that you can keep content consistent, short form, and keep releasing it daily, and keep your online presence active, which I know just sounds like jargon, but it's true. You just need to make sure people can see you're out there. That's the whole point of all this stuff, isn't it? That's why we're still doing it. Sorry, I think there's another question.
Yeah, what have we got? A question here from David East. Hi guys, I'm looking at a photo booth for small product images. I've seen many products offered. Any tips?
A photo booth. So may just need, if we get that up. I'm looking, okay. I'm looking at a photo booth for small product images. I've seen many products offered. That's really interesting. I'll be honest, David, obviously we don't really work in product photography, so I'm definitely not the best guy to speak to about that. If you're looking at doing online portfolios, I think now's a really, really great idea. One of my good friends and a supplier we use is a band photographer, and he's just taken the time where he's taken photos from the last 2 years of a tour he was on, photos that have never been released, and he's taken the time, obviously he's had lots of time now, to touch them all up, go through them, process them, and he's just released his first digital portfolio for people to buy. So he's now selling basically a photo album online. I think if that's the sort of thing
I think one thing that you could look at, David, as well is obviously it completely depends on the look of your products. We don't know what you sell, but if you are looking at doing your own nice product photography, you're along the right idea with a photo booth. But you can do it as simple as having a nice white background. If you've got white card, black card, things like that, you can make a really nice looking simple booth if you wanted. Again, depends totally on what the colors of your products are, what they're looking like, but there's quite a lot of different options you can do at home to set up a very, very simple, because if you think about most full scale photography studios, a lot of them are just plain white walls or plain black walls, so you are able to do that yourself at home if you were keen on it. Have a look online. Obviously there's one of the good things about video and about YouTube is you will find thousands of tutorials and offers online to answer that, to help with setting up a small home photo booth or home product photography, things like that. So there will be a lot of opportunities out there.
Also, if you're like, okay, I think I sort of understand the question a little bit better. But yeah, if it's a case of buying a photo booth, obviously you don't know how long it's going to take to ship and when it's going to be with you. It's probably more important you just take photos of the product and put them online. The principles are of both video and photography, and I'm not knocking anyone in the trade by saying this, but the principles of videography and photography are essentially just make sure the light's good, make sure the background's nice, and take the photo. And I'd recommend just doing that and putting your products online, and so people can see them, because people are more interested in the product that you're selling rather than just the booth that you've spent money on. But I mean, again, do both. If you want the photo, if you think a photo booth will make it look really nice, order it, get it in the post. But make sure you're taking the photos anyway. Make sure you're putting photos up even without a photo booth, so you're not waiting for that to arrive or waiting for that to sell your product.
Wonderful, thanks, guys. I have one final question. Just going back to one of your previous slides where you had the picture of the smartphones and various different types of holders, cups, and paper clips.
Yeah.
Sort of practical tips, hints, and tricks for sort of the amateurs out there when using mobile phones to record content. Landscape, portrait. Do we go for 60 frames per second, 4K, full HD?
Yeah. Okay.
What are we doing?
Yeah, loads I could tell you all day on this sort of stuff. Obviously, it's better to shoot landscape. I say obviously, but I think we'll get really annoyed when we watch stuff on social media that's been shot portrait, and we can't turn our phone around to watch it full screen. So that's the reason it's better to shoot stuff landscape. But yeah, if you can shoot stuff landscape, especially for Vimeo, YouTube, and Facebook. Instagram's not so bad because obviously you've got Instagram stories and stuff's more square there. But if you're making stuff for LinkedIn and Facebook, then yeah, make sure you're shooting landscape so everyone can watch it full screen. The other side of that thing is, the higher quality, the better. If you've got a phone that will shoot 4K and a computer that can process it and upload it, and your internet's strong enough to upload 4K video, then definitely shoot 4K. Higher quality, the better. Unless you're unfortunate looking, then in which case maybe softer light and lower quality video is better. But I mean, if you're
comment.
I probably wouldn't shoot 4K, but I know various other people might. So but make sure it's high quality. Make sure you're using the highest quality available. Put your phone on airplane mode. That's another one that's really important. There's nothing worse than watching a video and seeing someone get distracted by a message coming in. Or hearing it vibrate in the background. So just, when you're filming, put your phone on airplane mode and make sure no emails are coming in. And make elastic bands and gaffer tape your best friend. Gaffer tape is my best friend. Even with, our cameras are £5,000-6,000 and I've still been known to gaffer tape them to stuff if I can't get the angle right. So, but invest in some Gorilla Tape. It's really good stuff. And elastic bands, and just make sure you can get the shot, as I titled in the slide. I think that should be good for top tips. Another one is, sorry,
I
was just going to say, for helping with lighting, I saw a tip this morning by a cameraman of mine that he sometimes gets a bed sheet and hangs it up in front of a window if the light's too harsh, to use as what we call a diffuser. So yeah, put a bed sheet up. I would never put a bed sheet up as a background because it can look a little bit dodgy. But if you want to use a homemade diffuser, bed sheets are pretty good for that, or pillows.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that, guys. Much appreciated. Any more questions before we sort of finally move on? If not, thank you very much again to Will and Will Raw Pictures. Much appreciated. Their contact details can be found on LinkedIn and also their website, which you should be able to see in front of you. Thanks very much, guys, again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, so the Chamber is not finished with our webinars. We've got plenty more upcoming for anyone that's listening or live or sort of recorded. You're in for a treat tomorrow, I think it is, if my days are correct. 29th of April, we've got 2 webinars in for you. We've got Michael Page talking about sort of recruitment tactics and how to overcome, I guess, some of the biggest challenges around hiring in the current climate. We also have Claire Logic, who will probably share some tech insights and best practice in the current situation, in addition to sharing some interesting insights into how tech is playing its part in fighting the current COVID-19 pandemic. Moving on, Thursday, 30th of April, we have One Fix Limited, who will be presenting on how to review the current setup and environment for our remote workers. And on the 7th of May, we have IP Fingerprint. From what I understand, this webinar aims to give you a better understanding of making the most of your existing marketing, but also being able to measure ROI from activities such as Google Ads or email marketing. Full details on how to register for those webinars, plus more, are available on our website, thamesvalleychamber.co.uk. Last but not least, we have launched a business continuity toolkit, really aimed at ensuring members of the business community have access to all the right support and resources on one single portal. So any help, assistance you will need in relation to the current situation, details can be found on our website on our toolkit, www.thamesvalleychamber.co.uk. That ends the webinar for today. Thank you very much again to Will and Will from Raw Pictures. Look forward to hearing from both or anyone again soon on one of our upcoming webinars. Thanks very much.